And welcome back to the program. We turn our attention to Northwest Arkansas now. Paul Gatling joins us. He's the editor of the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal, which is in the family of Talk Business and Politics. Good to have you with us, Paul. Let's begin with some big stories from Northwest Arkansas this past year. Pinnacle Hills. This is a huge development that's going on in Northwest Arkansas. Tell me what has happened in 2018 and what's to come.
Well, if you can put your hat on and look at the long view and see that this is maybe really a city within a city that they're developing some 5 and 10 year projects in the pipeline, one involving John L. Hunt we've discussed before. There's a similar project now by the Blass and the Alley families from Little Rock that's just not even 100 or so yards away from that. These new urban walkable projects, each valued at more than $100 million. So those two things are in the pipeline. You still got restaurants that are being developed. Saltgrass is coming. The Drew Brees restaurant, Walk-On's Bistro, is rumored to have a spot picked out in Pinnacle Hills. But a couple of big items were the announcement that Topgolf from Dallas is going to develop a site in the Pinnacle Hills area. Of course, Topgolf is not just for golfers. It's this massive nightclub / entertainment / food and drink venue where you can also happen to hit some golf balls into a driving range that's supposed to break ground in the spring and open in 2020. Also next year, late next year in November, the Walmart Amp, which is just north of where the Topgolf is going to be. About a month ago, they announced they're going to invest about $14 million to reinvent the Amp. They're going to add about 1,000 more seats, bring it up to about 11,000 seat capacity, add lots of new amenities, add new bathrooms, new concession stands, new entrances, a covered pavilion on the north end. Mrs. Hunt, also a big benefactor of that. She donated some money to retire the debt of the Amp, which opened in Rogers with a Blake Shelton concert, I believe, in July of 2014. And that is supposed to open in 2020. So those two projects really will continue to drive, I think, the development in Pinnacle Hills, which is already booming with a lot of construction and red dirt and new buildings and that sort of thing going on.
All right, let's talk about XNA. The airport in Northwest Arkansas turned 20 years old this past year. That's a huge milestone for it there. What do you think it's meant to the region?
I don't think there would be a region without the Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport or without Interstate 49. With all the people that have moved here, the airport is brings all those people here and allows people to do business here. And maybe you can't travel out of Northwest Arkansas as inexpensively as you can other airports, but it's meant everything. They've just built a new parking garage, a $35 million, 1,500 stall new covered parking garage. Just hired a new CEO to replace Scott Van Lanningham, who is retired. Aaron Burks came from the governor's office working for the Development Finance Authority. He started in October as a Northwest Arkansas native, doesn't necessarily have transportation or airport experience, but has economic development experience, finance experience as a Northwest Arkansas native. So he started on the job, and maybe he's the CEO to take the airport to its next 20 years and in beyond. So a lot of things that they can do to take that next step. The airport access road is a popular topic, how to make access easier from the interstate to get to and from the airport, which as you remember 20 years ago when they were building it was being made fun of a little bit for being out in the middle of a cow pasture. It still is in the middle of a cow pasture. There's some development going on out there, but it's a 500,000 metro now, of course, and so I don't think we would be anywhere near that without the Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport.
Well, that's touching on not only infrastructure but finance as well. Let's segue to another topic in those two categories as well. Dick Trammell, the longtime banker from Arvest Bank and the current Highway Commission chairman, announced he is retiring in January. This will be the end of an era for Dick Trammell, who's had a lot of influence in Northwest Arkansas over 4 decades, particularly in the last decade a lot. What do you think is going to be missed about Dick Trammell?
Well, I spoke with him recently about his retirement, and I told him that we would miss him, except I don't think we're going to see any less of him. He is one of the most involved civic leaders that I can think of, not just in Northwest Arkansas, but in Arkansas. His board involvement are too numerous to list. He's worked for Told me he came over one May Sunday afternoon in 1975 from Pocahontas, where he was a civic leader and banker, and visited with Mr. Sam Walton, of course, who he'd gotten to know while helping build the Walmart store in Pocahontas, and has never left. Has lived here, worked for Arvest Bank for 43 of that bank's, I think, 57 years. He is just a consummate community cheerleader. You could call him a rainmaker. He gets things done. If there's a civic improvement or a civic involvement or a fundraising effort or a goodwill effort, Dick Trammell has been involved. He is going to be celebrated by the bank on January 14th, I believe. He's also going to be the guest of honor at the Rogers Lowell Chamber of Commerce in early February at their annual dinner. Steve Womack, when he was the mayor, he called Dick Trammell Mr. Rogers. He is a Rogers, Benton County, Northwest Arkansas pillar, stalwart, whatever words you want to use. So he's been great. At 81 years old, he said he had to wait a little bit longer than his friends to retire because they made a lot more money than him. So none of us believe that, of course, but
I think Dick did just fine on that front right there.
I think he did just fine.
Let's go through the Bobby Hopper Tunnel and move a little bit down into the Fort Smith area. Baptist Health out of Little Rock buys the Sparks Health System in Fort Smith in the Van Buren area. This is a big deal in the River Valley region.
Yeah, westward expansion for Baptist Health. You know, Sparks has been around since the 1800s, 1887, I believe. Sparks traces its origins back to. So their ownership history the last couple of decades has been with, public companies, most recently Community Health Systems. But it was announced in July and completed in November that Baptist Health, Arkansas-based, Little Rock-based, locally owned healthcare system, the state's largest healthcare system, was purchasing Sparks and its 2 hospitals in Fort Smith and Van Buren and a number of other clinics throughout western Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma. So yeah, that will add about 600 beds. The Fort Smith Hospital has about 480 some odd beds. The Van Buren a little over 100 beds. 600 beds, about 1,600 employees, and just expands the footprint for Troy Wells and the Baptist Health guys, and they're excited about that. I think they think they have a good brand, and they're just excited to get into a new market, and they hope bring some stability. You've had several CEOs and administrators come through, as you're wont to see with a public company ownership, but with some local ownership and some stability, I think Baptist Health will probably be a good fit for Fort Smith and vice versa.
And we're out of time to talk about a couple of other big stories, but folks can catch them on our website, and that is Walmart had a big year with a lot of acquisitions this last year, which you would have expected they would be front and center with some big stories. Tyson Foods also big acquisition, and then they've had the big CEO turnover there. You can catch all of that at talkbusiness.net or nwabusinessjournal.com with Paul Gatling at the leadership helm there as editor of our publication up there. Paul, thank you so much for your insight. And we will be checking in with you later.
All right, talk soon.
A quick break, and we will listen to what's happening on the political track from John Brummett, John Burris, and Tamika Edwards. We're back right after this.